Hello, I'm Avery or Hazel or Kylie. You can just pick one. I don't care.
Hello, I am Lily.
And I didn't write down anything from this movie to say at the start of
It's
this
Lilo and
episode.
Stitch again. Congratulations, you did it.
Yeah, it's Lilo and Stitch again or something. It's Stitch the movie, which is just not a great
Stitch,
name.
I hate this name. Wow,
Yeah,
Stitch the movie? What was the other one? A TV show? A game? No, they were all movies. What's the
yeah.
point?
There's four fucking movies in this franchise, so it's really weird to call this one Stitch the movie,
It's like if, oh, Nintendo released the new Mario game. It's Mario the video game, my favorite one of the genre.
right? But anyway, welcome to the From the Closet podcast. Today we are covering Stitch the movie. Obviously, this is a sequel to Lilo and Stitch, which we've already covered. You can check out that episode. I'm going to spin the wheel to determine uh, one of our upcoming future episodes, and you would not believe what it is.
I swear to God, if it's, please don't say it.
It is
What is?
Tangled Before Ever After.
Okay, that's not what I was expecting, but we were literally just talking about that like 5 minutes before recording.
Yeah, so I'm excited to cover that one. I think that one's even shorter than this one. And this
That's.
movie is short.
Oh, it is hella short. I looked at the next movie, which, oh my god, the name in that one is even worse. But yeah, that's just as short.
Yeah, the next movie, which takes place before this movie, Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch has a glitch.
Why? This, these two movies actually anger me.
What do you think about Leroy and Stitch? Because that title angers me too. Um,
I don't. I mean, Stitch the movie angers me because it's a movie series. Stitch, Lilo and Stitch 2 is the third movie. Leroy and Stitch, eh.
I'm just really annoyed with Lilo being removed from the title when she's still a major character and just as much of a major character as Stitch.
What I don't understand about this series is, well, one, why? Why did
Because
they decide to make a movie series out of this in particular?
because I don't know. But yeah, with all that being said, you can join us next week for that, as well as Amphibia season 1. But you can
Oh,
join us
hell yeah.
tomorrow. But you can join us tomorrow for Infinity Train season 4, which we have already recorded ages ago.
That is yesterday's news.
For real. Like, we recorded Infinity Train Season 4 back in March. It is now October. That feels like fucking forever ago.
Because it was fucking forever ago.
Yeah. But yeah, also, like, now that we're gonna be covering Tangled Before Ever After, that means that the, uh, the show is up for covering soon after. But
Yeah.
obviously that'll be placed on a show slot. It won't occupy the wheel. Um, which also this means I have to put something on the wheel after we get done recording here. But yeah, um, so obviously this podcast will contain spoilers for uh, Stitch the movie. And in the description, you can find a link to Just Watch, which will have links to all the places that you can purchase, rent, or stream this movie. You will also find a link to our Patreon where you can get access to episodes of this show early, as well as our sister show, Off the Shelf, which is about books. And you can also vote on future episodes of this podcast there. Um, Also, in the description is a link to Anchor FM, which contains links to every platform that this podcast is on, as well as links to our Instagram and Twitter where you can be notified whenever we release a new episode. So, with all that being said, let's dig into this movie because it is something.
It is something, yeah.
This is
Getting
a
started, I don't particularly like this. I don't hate it, but it leaves me with an emptiness feeling inside. I feel like I want more, and the second I just don't, it leaves me with a complex feeling that I don't know what to do with.
yeah, like I get that. This movie is all right. I wouldn't really have a problem with watching this again, but there are some things that just kind of are weird to me. The dialogue and the delivery is kind of just weird. It doesn't
Very.
Yeah, it just doesn't flow right. It doesn't feel quite like how the first movie felt. And also, speaking of that, there's an elevator now that goes up to Lilo's room.
I
That's
mean,
weird.
stuff that happens when you're living with weird aliens. Also, a mad scientist.
Yeah. And yeah, that was something. Also, I do want to touch on this because this is a minor nitpick. Um, there's a scene where Lilo is like trying to reassure Stitch and says something like, "Oh, you're one of a kind, like Frankenstein."
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah, like this is a pet peeve of mine. Frankenstein was the doctor, not the monster.
The scientist was also one of a kind.
I guess. I mean, you could call him a bodybuilder.
I remember seeing one of those jokes, and then someone tried to correct them as like, this is the one time where this works.
Yeah. You know, I've gotten really annoyed at people for who are like outraged that students read the book and then are like and then they make the claim that Frankenstein's monster was misunderstood and is the victim. And like there are people who are annoyed that people are saying that and like calling them snowflakes and like have you read the book? Cuz
I can
that's
say I
kind of the
actually
point.
haven't.
Yeah, like that's kind of the point of the book.
I mean, yeah, yeah. I haven't even read it, and that's kind of what I just assumed. It's just one of those stories where, like, yeah, I'm misunderstood. I can be good, even if my main creation was evil.
And you know, now that I think about it, there are a lot of parallels between Frankenstein's monster and Stitch.
Yeah, very, a lot of them.
Yeah.
I I think that's why I immediately started drawing comparisons when Lilo said that. I still just went like, wow, I don't think that's going to make Stitch feel better.
Well, I don't think Stitch knows the story of Frankenstein.
Apparently, neither did Lilo.
But yeah, like maybe neither did the writers of this movie. I I feel like the writers of the first movie very much knew because like it definitely feels like retroactively I'm saying this, it definitely feels like um Stitch was meant to be a inspired by Frankenstein's monster.
I mean, it definitely feels that way, especially how he was a clone meant for pure destruction, and then whoops, now is loose on Earth.
Yeah. Now, something I don't know if I mentioned in our actual episode on Lilo and Stitch. Uh, I love that Lilo has her own interests, because like she could just be a one-dimensional character, but like she very clearly loves photography, and the first movie highlights that a lot. This movie makes one reference to it, and it's never mentioned again.
It is sad, isn't it?
Yeah, I would hope that the series references it more, considering there's a lot more screen time.
Oh, speaking about references, we got a opening of Elvis Presley.
Ah, yes. Like I said, the first movie, like you're gonna hear Elvis Presley music throughout this whole franchise. Just
I'm not
honestly,
complaining. I just want to know why him specifically.
I don't know.
I still think Stitch dressing up as Elvis is just the funniest thing to me.
There were quite a few funny things in this movie too.
There was, but how should I say this movie? To me, this movie doesn't have an identity. What this movie set out to achieve was the sequel to Lilo and Stitch. That's all it felt like.
Yeah, but it didn't feel like a shitty cash grabby sequel
No,
like
it
Ralph Breaks the
didn't.
Internet. Yeah,
I
like Ralph Breaks the Internet felt like that. Um,
Yeah, Ralph Breaks the Internet, shitty cash grab. This movie exists.
and
That's
then
all I can
like
say.
Rio 2, I don't want to say that that one felt like a shitty cash grab. That one felt like they
It
were
just felt
trying to make.
shitty.
Yeah, like that one felt like they were trying to make a good movie and failed.
This movie tried to make a movie, and I think they succeeded.
Yeah, it certainly is a movie. It literally has movie in the title to let you know.
Oh, that's why. They need to remind you that, yep, still a movie.
Yeah, even though it really is just like a backdoor pilot for the TV show. Um, which
Which
like,
did happen.
yeah. And like I think this movie makes more sense logically as a sequel to Lilo and Stitch than Lilo and Stitch 2 does. Cuz like, oh, if you're
I haven't
going to
seen
make
it.
a like if you're going to make a sequel, I mean, obviously the other 625 experiments is a logical path to go down. Lilo and
It
Stitch
is,
2 does
yeah.
not go down that path.
Well, didn't you say these two movies were actually in development around the same time?
Pretty much, yeah. And like I said, Lilo and Stitch 2 takes place before this movie, even though it came out after this movie, and this movie makes zero references to it. Like Lilo and Stitch 2 might
This
as well not be canon.
This movie has created a Lilo and Stitch timeline, and I'm not okay with that.
Well, I mean, at least it did this movie didn't create the Stitch anime
No, no, you're right, it didn't.
or the Lilo and Stitch crossover with High School Musical.
I am dangerously curious about that.
I I don't want to be curious about that. Cause
I,
I never liked High School Musical.
oh no, me neither. I kind of just want to watch it on my own time. Of just, I don't even know why, but I kind of do.
Just like out of morbid curiosity.
Yeah, really. Like, how do you make a High School Musical plus Stitch crossover? I need to know. How do you
Yeah,
do it?
I've been thinking the same thing. So back on this movie, what do you think of like hamster mafia boss or whatever you want to call him?
Oh yeah, the hamster. I don't know. He he's generic. That's all I can really say about him. I
I
feel
don't know.
like I've seen his character before in a lot of other films.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a weird thing to go for. You're gonna create this like big villain who's gonna be kind of important throughout the rest of the franchise, and then he's a hamster who gets
There's
mad
a
every time he gets
and the hamster
ref-
is barely explained.
yeah. It's like, oh yeah, he was the Jumba's partner in, well, no, he wasn't even his partner. He was somebody that paid Jumba to make these experiments. Which just like, ooh, yeah, now you're gonna claim them as your own because logically, like, you paid for them. So like, the weird thing to say here is that like, morally, he is right to want the experiments. It's everything else that he does is weird.
Not right? Yeah.
Yeah, because like he kidnaps Jumba, he demands that they be forked over as like a ransom. It's just all kinds of weird. Also, um, Experiment 625 is a hell of a mood.
Yeah. I still have no idea how he makes sandwiches out of fucking nothing. There was nothing in that cell. And they came back in. Sandwiches.
Well, if he can do it, you can do it. Make me a goddamn sandwich.
Avery, he made sandwiches out of nothing. He didn't deliver sandwiches across multiple states.
But yeah, one of the things it just reminds me that we get on this ship after like Lilo tries to rescue the experiments and kind of successfully does so. Um, so basically, uh, it's a really weird turn that the movie takes near the end, where it's like, oh yeah, now Hamsterville wants to clone Stitch to make an army, which is like, oh well, okay. And
No,
then Gantu's like, I'm gonna send Lilo off to an alien zoo.
yeah. No, what it feels like a bigger twist or weird thing that the movie did. And I understand like this is the entire premise of the backdoor pilot show, but what the hell is that ending? You know, we have all of the Stitch clones or whatever, other experiments get launched up into other places in Hawaii. It's like, oh, gotta find them all now.
You know, speaking
Six
of like,
hundred of them.
yeah, speaking of like all of everything landing in Hawaii, we have this weird scene at the beginning of like close to the beginning of the movie when Gantu first shows up and kidnaps Jumba. Um,
Hmm.
Lilo and Stitch they take off in a spaceship to go after them. The spaceship gets damaged in outer space, completely loses all of its power, and then still somehow lands back on the same island.
I mean, I'm just wondering how Stitch is so knowledgeable in GTA.
Dude, the fact that he could hotwire cars and spaceships is just it's funny to me.
No, I was immediately thinking like damn, Lilo and Stitch really made a turn from, heartwarming stories into GTA.
And I fucking love that scene when they're riding around in Cobra Bubble's car and then they pull up on like the other girls who are basically bullying Lilo and Lilo rolls the window down, lifts up her shades, winks, and then rolls it back up and they drive off.
Honestly, if this movie did anything well, it was capturing the humor of the first movie.
Yeah, because this movie genuinely is funny. Like if you were just here for the humor, you'll have a good time. If
You'll
you're
have a
here for
great
the
time.
we, yeah, if you're here for the like the family dynamics that you saw from the first movie, you're gonna
I'd
be
rather watch Big
disappointed.
Hero 6.
Eh, Big Hero
Or,
6 is all right.
rewatch the original movie.
Yeah, just rewatch the original movie like 5 times.
I think 5 times a bit too much for me, but I never been one to rewatch things or replay things.
I couldn't tell you how many times I've seen this movie. Uh, well, and the original Lilo and Stitch. I do know that since I became like I haven't seen the sequels in a long, long ass time, any of them. But I do know that I
Hmm.
watched them all at some point in the past. I never watched the entire Lilo and Stitch series. I've seen a couple episodes here and there.
So, when researching this, do you actually know how long the series is?
I want to say it's 2 seasons, and I couldn't tell
So,
you how many episodes are in a season.
okay, and we will absolutely not be covering this on the podcast, but oh god, I'd have to watch, if it comes to it, I would have to watch 3 seasons worth just for a movie.
Yeah, maybe. I'll decide on whether or not we have to do it.
Yeah,
Maybe we don't.
I'm gonna imagine you're just gonna do a bunch of research on, what this movie has in store for us.
Yeah, probably. And like I do find the story of this movie interesting, or at least moderately interesting. It's interesting enough to
Yeah.
warrant existing, but like I don't know, they just kind of the dialogue and the delivery of that dialogue feels really off, and then on top of that, they do some really weird stuff at the end. Um,
Oh, so many weird stuff. It, you believe me if I said I wanted to like this movie?
I was
'Cause I,
actually going. I was actually going into it expecting it to not be good just at all, and
mhm.
I'm surprised to find that there were things that I genuinely appreciated about this movie, namely the
Honestly, yeah,
humor.
I expected a trash movie, and what I got left me feeling empty inside. It doesn't feel bad, but
Also, also, I love that the ice cream guy came back.
I love that.
Yeah, like that's just fantastic. Kind of reminds me of the cabbage merchant from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh
Except,
yeah.
yeah, which is kind of funny because that came later because that
I
showed it.
cabbages.
I have seen people cosplay the cabbage merchant.
I love that.
I mean, that having characters like that makes for something like interesting. So I do want to talk about some of the things I remembered from this movie before I watched it again for the podcast.
Hmm.
So I specifically remembered Jumba getting kidnapped. I remembered them unleashing Experiment 221 and eventually naming it Sparky. I remembered that scene where like they popped Sparky went and popped a bunch of balloons when they were trying to chase it down. I obviously remember the hamster, and I remember 625, like, and his sandwiches, his just general sandwich obsession. And
Sandwiches.
I remembered that scene close to the end where Gantu grabs the experiments as they're heading out the window, and then the thing pops open and all of them start raining down to Earth.
You know what? Now I'm starting to think that Hawaii is like the human triangle, but for things falling out of space.
The Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe, but like it maybe just in the context of this movie, sure.
I mean, there's been way too many coincidences happening.
Yeah, like
I can buy only one thing crash landing in Hawaii. We had three and
yeah,
continue counting.
it is a bit weird. And also like Gantu becoming evil just kind of feels off. Like
I mean, it feels like he always was. Like he was supposed to be that villain character, you know?
yeah, like he was supposed to be the villain of the first movie, but he didn't really feel evil. He was just kind of following orders, doing his job. And then he
I
gets
mean,
fired for failing at it, even though, like, his boss was like, yeah, maybe he doesn't need to be, maybe Stitch doesn't need to be captured. But then, like, she fires Gantu anyway, and then he goes to work for this hamster villain dude who commissioned Stitch to be created in the first place.
despite her agreeing that Stitch probably shouldn't be captured, he still sucked at his job.
Yeah, but I don't know, like it just feels weird to me that he would then go and work for the person who commissioned the creation of the thing that he was sent to capture and
I mean, he
failed
did
at.
just get fired. Maybe work is tight.
I don't know. I don't know what the space economy is like.
Space economy.
Yes, space economy. I wonder what the economy is like in space Australia.
Space economy's a bitch.
One day you will get the space Australia reference.
Not today.
No, certainly not today.
If we ever
But
had non-licensed music, there'd be some sad piece playing right about now.
oh my god. But yeah, I was surprised to find that this movie wasn't horrible. Um so I mean, yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about it. There was like well, actually there was one Elvis song in this movie and that was pretty much it.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm actually disappointed. I am disappointed in the lack of Elvis songs in this movie.
Yeah,
This is a weird thing. I don't think I'll ever say this ever again. Disappointed in the lack of Elvis songs in a movie.
for real. And but I also do like how um when the when we cut away to like all these other characters and we see the the experiment pods being getting wet, uh the score for the title theme of the TV show is playing. And then we get to the credits and then that's the theme song of the TV show. That's the song that plays in the
Interesting.
credits.
They already had the theme song for the TV show picked out before releasing.
I guess.
Oh, damn.
But yeah, I guess if it, do you have anything else you want to say, or should I just go ahead and get into the critic ratings?
I do have something, and I've been reiterating it throughout this entire podcast. This movie, to me, feels like a Lilo and Stitch sequel. Nothing else to it. There's nothing magical about this movie. There's nothing that holds it back. But to me, I feel like they tried very little for this.
Yeah, it's just a mess sequel. Like they kind of tried very little, and they didn't really try to go overboard and like make you really want to buy it or whatever.
Yeah, to me, this movie lacks its own real identity. Lilo and Stitch original had, the family drama, Stitch, Lilo being could be taken away from the family. This movie, it's just that. It's Stitch, the movie.
Yeah, and
That's
like
it.
the whole thing of like Stitch wishing like he had a biological family in this movie is just kind of it's something. And like I feel like it's a good way to connect in the other 625 experiments.
This is everything I would have wanted from a Lilo and Stitch sequel. It's just that, though. It's not something I would have wanted from a Disney movie, you know?
But yeah. But yeah, let's get into the critic ratings, I guess.
Okay.
So IMDb gives this a 6.1 out of 10. Fair. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 20%, which just like I don't know. I don't think this movie is that bad.
I don't
And then
know how bad you thought this movie was, but sheesh.
and then Common Sense Media gives this a 3 out of 5, which would equate to 6 out of 10, so fair. Um and then 83% of Google users liked this movie. Of course, Google users don't really matter that much.
Matter.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I'm gonna go with the critic ratings, except that really low ball, and say 6.5 in a movie
huh.
that exists.
Yeah, I was actually premeditating about the same as 6.5.
Huh.
Like it's something. I would watch this movie again. It's better than Ralph Breaks the Internet by a long shot.
Well, let's see how the next Lilo and Stitch movie fares. But
Yeah.
until then,
Yeah, it's certainly join us when we eventually cover Lilo and Stitch 2. Stitch has a glitch. But yeah, like I said earlier, you can join us tomorrow for uh what was it? It was Infinity Train season 4. You can join us next week for Tangled Before Ever After and in Amphibia season 1. But until then, I've been Avery, that's been Lily, and we will be seeing you.